Basically, and this was the same basic thing that I was doing in Mississippi. It wasn't work organizing demonstrations. It wasn't work that was meant to attract attention. It was voter registration work. And what that meant was walking down the red clay roads of very rural communities and knocking on people's doors, on African American people's doors, and encouraging them to go and register to vote. Often we had to go back to the same person many, many times. Often we had to go to friends who we knew were a little bit braver than the first and ask the friends to encourage their friends. We organized what we called mass meetings in churches, the only purpose being to build the courage of people. We did organize groups to go down to try to register to vote as a group, because there's certain protection in groups. But frankly, most of the work was boring, tedious, and dangerous. Arrested meant getting us off the roads, getting us off the streets. We just wanted to be back out. But it was rather boring, tedious work, just repeating the same thing over and over again to people who were absolutely justified in being afraid to try to register to vote. Because what would happen to them is generally they would lose their jobs. Maybe they would have their house burned down. Maybe they would get beaten up. Several got killed. When you went to register to vote, your name appeared in the paper for 2 weeks. Everybody that even tried, for 2 weeks your name was in the paper. So everybody knew who went down to the courthouse just to try to register, even if you were turned away.
You know, it's such a difficult thing, but I didn't tell you one thing, that to fight apartheid, when they told us that the ANC has won and is going to be the government, people had, do you know there was a referendum? We went, I personally and a group, we went house to house getting people involved, showing them how to vote, and that's how we were able to win the election for ANC. A lot of hard work we did. Take Amkamas, we visited every home to educate the people, because politics was not a thing that was discussed at the homes, but this brought about awakening.
We stood it up because when the peace negotiations were happening, we realised there were going to be no women at the table, and we asked the men in the other parties to put women from their parties at the table, and they didn't bother to answer or to agree that they would do it. So that's how we ended up organising. We never wanted to get elected. I think we were the only party that ever organised, hoping that nobody would vote for us. And when they did vote for us overwhelmingly, I ended up then at the peace table. But we knew that that was never going to last very long, because, you know, the Women's Coalition should really be a people's coalition, or that more women and the parties would be integrated. So we were surprised it lasted 10 years. That was much longer than we ever intended it to last. We only established ourselves to be peace negotiators at the table, and that lasted for 2 years. And then I got elected to represent this area for 5 more years, and I thought, oh, when's this going to end? I want to go back to my day job. But it was so historically important and politically significant that I actually was really pleased to be there. And that window only opens once in a person's lifetime. So it amazed us that it lasted as long as it did, and that we were able to influence things from inside. I mean, we were outsiders who had become insiders, and the insiders didn't like us for that reason. and made life very difficult for us as a consequence. But I have to say now, looking at how politics is changing,